Created for myself a student account in Google Classroom, and you can see right here that this is my student account as Scott Wallstrom, and I have all of the same documents in my account that you should have in your account. The three that we are working with are the Bounce That Ball Lab Report, which is what you have to turn in this weekend, the Bounce That Ball Data Table, and of course the Bounce That Ball Planning Step number 2. The lab report should look something like this and be filled in by you. A heading is located at the top, which consists of the name, the date, the class, and my name as teacher. Of course, in this case, they're both the same. A title, and then the various sections of the lab report. The experimental question, hypothesis, prediction, variables, method, and so on. Of course, this information was taken from the Bounce That Ball Experimental Planning Step 2, which you completed with your lab partners. Here's an example of one right here. I did not have any lab partners, but if I did, this would be shared with all of them. Everyone in the class was instructed to share this document with their lab partners, and to the best of my ability, you all confirmed to me that you had done that. So everyone should have access to it. If you look at this sample, you will see that the experimental question, hypothesis, prediction, variables, and so on through the method are all included here. And simply copying this information and pasting it into the lab report is sufficient to fill out the lab report for passing in. The next two sections of the lab report are data and results and the analysis. And this information came from a different document that you prepared individually. Every single student should have a copy of the Bounce That Ball data table assignment, which is in a Google spreadsheet, also in your classroom account. Here's an example of the data table, which includes the maximum, minimum, average, and range, which are information that we calculated by programming this data table to make the calculations. And I asked you to create a graph by finding out the bounce height percentage, which was simply the average bounce height that you found from your measurements divided by the original drop height, and then of course multiplied by 100 to create a percentage. Those answers were placed in here. I should clean them up. I think I'll make them all one decimal like that. Those answers were placed in here, and you simply graphed them by highlighting them and choosing Insert a Chart. And when doing so, after making a few changes, you should have a graph. Very simple matter to copy this graph. You click in the upper right corner of it. You should get these three dots. You can copy the chart and paste it into your report. And I can also show that the data table, you can simply highlight over the data table, and you can right-click, copy it, and paste that into your lab report as well. Remember that each of these sections, data and result and analysis, include a sentence or two at the beginning to introduce your table and explain a little bit to your reader what you're presenting there for information, either the data or in this case the graph. Your final step is a discussion and conclusion. Your conclusion should be based upon the graphic organizer that was both handed out in class and emailed home to both you and your family. If you can't find this graphic organizer, go into your email. You'll see one from me. It is linked in that email, which explains the steps necessary to finish the lab report. You can open up that graphic organizer and use it to create a wonderful conclusion, which you can then type into your lab report. Once it's ready, everything's done, don't forget to proofread it carefully, have a parent help you, make certain you have no errors at all. All of the lab report should be done in Times New Roman number 12 font. Use the setting here for line spacing to make certain that the entire report is in 1.5 line spacing. You would need to select all of the text except the heading. Note that this heading is single-spaced up in here, but select all the text in the report like so. I'm just going to continue on down. There we are. And go on up and change it to be 1.5 spacing. All right, and that should look very nice once it's done. Final step, there are complete instructions that outline everything I've just said right at the bottom of the lab report format. Those should not be turned into me. You should highlight all of them and remove them from the file simply to clean it up and make this your work, as I am doing here. If you need to think a little bit about the grading, note at the very bottom I have a discussion of what the grading looks like. You can remove that as well. I have my own rubric for you. A few more tips down the end here, and delete it. Should be done. And you should have a terrific lab report. We'll go back up to the top, check that it looks nice. I'm going to click Turn It In, as will you. And once your work has been turned in, it's ready for me to grade and for you to get that grade that you deserve. Best of luck, and thank you.